Welcome to the Love Where You Live podcast, where we have conversations about why it's awesome to live in Boulder County. And today I'm doing something brand new for me, which is having this podcast without any guests. So the essence of our podcast is talking about where our friends came from, what brought them to Boulder, what they love about Boulder, what they do here in town or in the county, and how it's changed, how they interact with our beautiful town, our beautiful county, beautiful valley here. And so with that essence, I thought, why not just turn the microphone on myself and kind of share a little bit with you guys my story, where I started, where I got here from, and how long I've been here and whatnot. So it's a little bit different format. It's going to be fun for me. I'm also in my home studio, which we relocated from my beautiful friends over at BCC, Boulder County Communications. They did the first 15 episodes, and then we did 16 here with Aaron Carson, and now 17. So it's kind of, we're going to be here a lot in this home studio, but also still visiting my friends at Third and Canyon, my good friends Dave and Mel and Marcus and company. So without kind of spending too much time there, I'm going to go right into the specifics, kind of the general tone that we do all our shows. And some of you may have heard episode number 1 when I sat down with Amanda and more or less posed these questions to her. But I think instead of focusing on her and our story, I can't extract our story from my story or mine from ours, but I'm going to go right into a little bit about myself and bring a quick up to speed story for those of you that may be interested. And I think a lot of you guys know me from the past. They know you know me from my days prior to being here in Colorado. But I did grow up in New Mexico, so I'm a Southwest kid. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm going to kind of start there because a lot of people that come to Colorado struggle with something that I never struggled with, and that is because I grew up in Albuquerque. The city of Albuquerque in New Mexico is a high desert, high plains environment. So I grew up in this really hot, dry, arid community. And I mention that because it was above 5,000 feet where I grew up. It was often spending time 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 feet above sea level. That was my childhood. That's all I knew. We knew dry air, very little water, very little moisture, very little rain. And I grew up in that environment. It was the norm. And so people that sort of interacted with me later in life said, well, how was it moving to Boulder? Was it really weird how dry and high and thin the air is? I said, well, actually, it's not quite as bad as it was in Albuquerque, not as hot, not as dry, and certainly not as sunny. But nonetheless, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am the second of 2 kids. My older sister, Stephanie, is about a little over 2 years older than me. And suffice it to say, I love chasing her around. At least in my memory, I have to get her on the show someday. But get her story rather. I just sort of looked up to her in a lot of ways. And growing up, I wouldn't necessarily say I chased her, but I did follow in a lot of her footsteps where she was in sports, so I wanted to be in sports. She was doing activities, I wanted to do activities. We had the fortunate opportunity to go to the same elementary school, middle school, and high school as one another, and also in that community, not at all how it is where we live now, but we had the same friend groups that just naturally went through school. So for me, what was really foundational in that time was going to school with the kids that I met in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So a few people would move away and switch schools, but generally speaking, I grew up doing the same sports and the same activities and the same games and birthday parties and everything with the kids that I met at 5. And so kind of cutting to what formed me or where I came from or what my story was, I'll say that I was interested in everything. I once described myself as sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. I loved to play soccer. Baseball was not my favorite, but I played it. Basketball, I loved. Water polo, swim team. I did gymnastics because my sister did gymnastics. Stephanie did it, so I followed her in there. Did quite enjoy that, as a matter of fact. But I also ran track and field in high school. So really just everything, you name it, I was interested. We we spent a lot of time in just every outdoor activity you can imagine. I rode my bike a lot as a kid, as we all did, growing up in the late 70s and the 80s. I was born in 1973, so by the time 1980 hit, I'm 7, and I'm on a bike, BMX, cruising around the neighborhood, doing all those fun things. So my childhood was pretty standard and pretty fun. I have great fond memories, very fond memories of it. But as I progress and kind of getting forward in the story, I was very interested in sports, but I never thought, oh, this will be something that I do in college. As a team sport with soccer, I wasn't really committed or good enough to be on a soccer team. I swam because my friend Ryan and I thought it would be a good idea to join the high school swim team because there were really cute girls going to the swim team meeting. Full disclosure there, it was what drew me into the meeting. But I also loved swimming. I swam summer league growing up, and I wasn't ever super serious, but I had a good ability for the sprints. So I joined swimming, and then I discovered track and field in high school and absolutely loved it. I did the sprints. I did the 400, the 100, 200, 400, and I also ran the hurdles, 300 intermediate hurdles. But I loved track. Oh man, I just thought it was the best. Totally different individual, but sport, but team elements that really appealed to me. And it was just so fun for me to see the improvement. So I grew up doing that, or I shouldn't say I grew up. I spent my high school years focused on those sports. And then when I decided to go off to college, it wasn't like colleges were knocking on my door saying, hey, come compete for us, come join our team. I didn't also even know really that it was a thing, or really didn't consider that at that time, my senior year. So I went to the University of Texas, left Albuquerque after my whole life growing up there. Living there, I went to Austin, Texas, to go to the University of Texas, and that's really where my sport story evolved, where it really changed. And the school, University of Texas, was incredible. I loved that school. I loved Austin. 1992, moving to Austin, 500,000 people, and the unofficial slogan of "Keep Austin Weird" was very true. It was very, very quirky and very fun and very weird. But not too long after being there, I was just doing the standard college thing, lifting weights and studying. And then I discovered this ad for intramural triathlon. That intramural triathlon was held right there on the University of Texas campus. And it was a sprint triathlon. And I thought for sure I was going to win it because I was a swimmer and I rode my bike everywhere and I could run. But that sprint triathlon nearly killed me, and I did get beaten by a lot of people. But I absolutely loved it. I fell very in love with the sport. I was drawn to the competition and the camaraderie, which was really cool. Standing around as a 19-year-old kid in a group of all ages, all types, boys, girls, women, men, everything, and it was just really appealing to me. So the sport kind of captured me at that age and never let me go. And so just really saying I grew in the sport there. I was in Austin for 9 years and just loved it, from being kind of average at sprint distance to in a couple years decent at the Olympic distance, to dipping my toe into the half Ironman distance by 1995. In 1996, and I went to that longer distance and got beat up. It was a hard. A lot of these folks. Oh, and I tell you what, a lot of these folks that I interact with in the triathlon sphere over the last 3 decades, they're all so good right away, and I don't even know how. So many great stories that I've heard of people that just took to it, and they're just amazing. And that was not me. I did get good, but it was not easy. Everything kind of kicked my butt, but I learned from it. I did really enjoy the competition, the travel, and the camaraderie, and that kept me going, which is an important part to bring up. At the end of my college time, I had been studying Spanish. I got a degree in Spanish and was also certified to teach high school and middle school Spanish. And that was kind of a crossroads for me. I'm sitting there and I am in Austin and it's 1996. I've just gotten the degree and my college roommates are kind of getting ready to do their next step. And I was really into the sport. And my really good friends from Albuquerque, one was going to CU and one or just graduated from ECU, and one was in Albuquerque. And we decided, let's spend a summer up in Boulder. And I didn't, I had applied to the school here. I got accepted and didn't choose to come here, but that was just sort of irrelevant. I'm 4 years on from when Ryan came to school here, and my buddy Fonz went to University of New Mexico, and here I am in Austin, and we all three decided to spend a summer in Boulder. And of course, Ryan and all his 5 other roommates had a place at 7th and Marine, 658 Marine Street, and it was this college grotto. I don't know, it was a terrible spot. It was wonderful and terrible, but we decided that we're going to spend time in Fonz and are going to crash. We're going to move into this apartment. So first Boulder experience, 1996, May, and it's about May 15th or May 18th, to be moderately precise. And this is what I just, every time someone tells a story of the first time I came to Boulder, it's etched in the brain. It is solid in my memory, where I'm sitting in a Toyota Corolla with my friend Fonz and all our stuff packed on. I've got 2 bikes on the bike rack. He's got one, and we've got all our gear. I don't know. We don't have much, but we've got this Toyota Corolla packed full. And we drove up from Albuquerque, and we're getting there, getting a little driver fatigue, a little road weary. And it's just that kind of golden hour, 5, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. Since it's May, maybe it's actually about 7:30 or 8, because the sun was just getting right behind the foothills. And it was that moment. You come up 36, everybody's described this, but I'll give my best go. Coming over Davidson Mesa, the scenic lookout, and people are parked there. And I think this is honestly the only time I ever stopped there. And Fawn said, I'll give you 30 seconds. He said something because he's ready to get there, and he's been to Boulder before. I have not. And we're rolling in, and we pull over that scenic overlook. And I was just awestruck because I'm looking at something that I'm not very used to, which is just green trees, beautiful green, this beautiful green valley. You can see Baseline Reservoir is twinkling off to the right. Flatirons are there, backlit, and you can see the university. It's a beautiful brick buildings. And I just thought, what kind of paradise is this? And where has it been hiding? Like what? And I'm awestruck. And Fonz gave me about 45 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds. He said, all right, get back in the car. We're going down. We're going to get there, get some dinner, end this road trip. So it was just a spot. And I think realistically, I'll never forget. I don't know that I've stopped at that overlook since. And this was 28 years ago. But the memory is fresh as though it were yesterday. So coming to town, that's my first experience. 1996, I get into town, and I am just a young, full of energy, 22, going on 23-year-old triathlete. So I've stumbled into Boulder in the 90s, and I'm like mind blown, in heaven. And rock up to this house rather. We're jammed in, 3 of us in a basement bedroom the size of a large closet. We found some bunk beds, and this is the quarters meager, the experience exceptional. So my first memories, I'm in Boulder. I've got 2 bikes. I have no car. P.S. I have no car. Fonz has this Corolla. I do not have a car. I've not purchased a vehicle at this age. I have not saved the funds. I have 2 pretty good bikes, and I am ready to rumble because I am qualified to lifeguard and teach swim lessons, and I can also tutor Spanish. So really a pretty good bag of tricks. And I show up in Boulder, and I am ready to experience it. We're centrally located, and I just jump into riding my bike to Scott Carpenter Pool. First morning there, Scott Carpenter Pool, 50-meter pool, beautiful area. Show up for the Masters at 7, which is super early for me. And there's already been one. I'm already the second. There was a 5:45 Masters. I don't ever forget this. And most of the triathlon elite, Mark Allen was in there. Siri Lindley was up and coming. She was in there. You really had Tim DeBoom was there, Cameron Whiteoff was there, Tony DeBoom was there, just a lot of these old school players. But they've already swum 5:45 to 7, and they're doing the 7 to 8 group swim, master swim. And I'm just like, oh, I can barely do the hour. Jump in the pool, first session, first day for me, first experience. And like I said, the altitude didn't bug me because, sure, I've been in Austin for a decade, but I'm an altitude baby. I don't mind. I jump in and I'm trying to swim. Mark Allen, 6-time Ironman winner, telling me to go ahead. You just go ahead now. So hacking it out in there, can barely fake it long enough to stay through the whole swim set. But I'm just enamored. I love it. This is why I'm here. Swim session done, ride my bike home up the creek path. And that's, again, where just for me, that interaction with Boulder, first and foremost, ride your bike anywhere. I rode down the Boulder Creek path to the Scott Carpenter pool, parked it, locked it, swam, rode back, did a little run around the campus. And I'm just thinking, this is brilliant. So little while later, we get there mid-May, 15th, 18th, somewhere in that zone. And then my roommates start egging me on and say, hey, man, there's this race coming up. It's called the Boulder. I thought, I didn't even know. I thought it was Boulder, like Bouldr, Bouldr. They said Boulder twice. Apparently it's the Boulder, Bolder. Anyway, small distinction. I figured that out about 3 years later. But they said the Boulder's coming up. It's this huge 10K Lovato. You think you can run? You got to do it. And I don't even know what I'm doing, but I get signed up for this thing. Been there for 8-10 days. And once again, another introduction to Boulder is this quintessential event that had probably at that time 30,000 people, now 45,000, 50,000 people. But it was so cool. I go in there and I just completely max out, finish running what at the time was an exceptional performance for me. And it's 35 minutes. But I just, and I got murdered by like 100 people, or beaten. But either way, it was just that first, like, hey, bam, you're here. I'm doing my thing. I quickly, I get over that race and I think, I got to get a job. I have to stay here. This is the jam. I can never leave. And I got a job lifeguarding at Rock Creek Pool in Superior. So I would ride my bike from downtown, from Central Boulder, right straight out Broadway. And I would enter the on-ramp on 36. I would ride my bike because back in the 90s, you could still ride on 36. And I would just ride onto the highway in the shoulder, go over Davis Mesa, take a ride on McCaslin, go up the steep hill to my job and lifeguard all day and teach swim lessons. But that was it. And then that was training. So I would ride max out on the way home. Sometimes I'd take the long road down Marshall Road and come up Broadway. But either way, I was in absolute heaven. I was first experience here on hook, line, and sinker. Now, that's obviously not when I moved here. So what happened was I had this incredible summer. I spent the whole 3 months here, and I've actually got to go back. I don't have the degree yet. I misspoke. I've got to go back to Austin to claim the teaching certificate and get the credential. So I'm not done with school, and I am very committed to getting that Spanish teaching certificate. But it was super hard for me to leave this experience. I saved up money all summer, had $3,000 and bought a Subaru because Boulder equals Subaru, or at least Boulder equaled Subaru back then. Every other car was a Subaru. There were a handful of Toyota Land Cruisers out there, vintage Land Cruisers, but realistically, I wanted that Subaru. I bought the Subaru from a couple, used 1987 GL wagon. I fit right in. It was maroon. I fit right into the Boulder vibe, and felt like, okay, but now I've got to go back. I drove that thing back, said, see you later to Fonz. He went to Albuquerque. I went to Austin, and I buckled back into school, into getting my certificate so I could be a professional teacher and locked that up. And then at the end of 96, I'm done. And I'm like, I can go anywhere. Well, without dwelling on the details, Austin had me too. It had my heart. I was drawn to Boulder. I was captivated by that experience, but Austin was still amazing to me. And it was a great place for me to remain and to grow my dreams as either a Spanish teacher, which I tried, or a triathlete, which I was trying. And so I plug along. I'm there. I'm in the jam. And it took me 3 years of, well, I shouldn't say that. It took me 5 years to get back. It took me 5 whole years to get back. But 3 years into that process of being in Austin and racing, I met my beautiful bride, Amanda. In 1999, I met her at an event. And I'm really not talking much about Boulder yet, but I will. Well, that's not true. I'm not in the current times. But 1999, June, actually, I met her at a race in Florida, and she gave me the hand. Nope, not interested. And so June in Claremont, Florida, 1999, I got the deny from my bride, my now bride. But 1999, September, I was in Montreal, Canada, and that's when I spotted her again, Amanda Gillum. And I said, listen, I'm single. I wasn't anywhere near that smooth. In fact, that's not even smooth. But I met Amanda, and we decided that we hit it off. And so for 2 years, we had this long distance relationship. I was in Austin and she was in Baltimore. And after that 2 years, we said, you know what, let's do something new. Let's go somewhere new, because either one of us is going to give up a lot to go be in the other person's city and be the other person's, Amanda's boyfriend, Michael's girlfriend sort of thing. So she said, you know what? I spent time in San Diego and it's a good triathlon scene. And I said, that's cool. I spent some time in Boulder and it's a pretty good triathlon scene. We both really enjoyed the lifestyle of triathlon at that point. I was a newly minted professional making zero money, and she was a top amateur. And we decided to spend a little time. We tested San Diego and it was wonderful, but we chose Boulder. And so again, now a brand new first time in Boulder. I think we shared this on her podcast. She and I had a podcast together, first episode of Love Where You Live. And I won't tell the story again. Otherwise, I'll just point out some highlights. We came here, and this was the time when she was training for Ironman Hawaii, and I was not. I had not qualified. And so I was her guide, and I was going to take her through the streets of Boulder. All of the stuff I did in the 90s, 96. And now we're 2001, and let me just show you the ropes. And long story short, she got pretty sick from the altitude. She didn't love it as much as I did. She did. She loved it, but I was kind of the one saying, babe, we got to make this work. Like, this is fantastic. And if I'm being completely honest, it was really, really, really hard for us. There were tears, and Amanda and I shared this on the podcast. There was a lot of love. We did care immensely for one another and the desire to better ourselves and make it as a couple. But we were here in Boulder, and I mean, from day one, we're in a house where we don't have AC, we barely have heat, and the landlord decides that the landlords say, hey, we're selling this. It's an acre lot. We're going to sell it, and they're going to build a couple houses here. So we got kicked out. So we're very transient almost. And we go to another house, and the same thing happened where we moved from Bluff Street to Pine Street. Each of those stories had multiple chapters that were tough ones. I mean, we're in there. I'll kind of come back to how we struggled. So she had a job. Amanda had a job at Title IX. I had a job at Fleet Feet Sports. I was selling shoes and running gear, and I was tutoring. I would hustle to the university as often as I could to go sit down with college students and tutor Spanish, because it was something I was good at, and they paid me a lot of money, $15 an hour. That seemed like a lot back then, but we did really grind it out. We tried super hard, and all the while I'm trying to do these races and just not really pragmatic planning. And I made a sum total in 2002, my first full season of racing in Boulder, of $560. It was brutal. I made $100 at the Lubbock Triathlon coming last. I was the last person to get the last bit of prize money. I fell off my bike, got hurt, and did an 8-hour half Ironman. But Mike and Marty Greer, the race directors, paid me the $100 that was on offer for fifth place, professional. So I made $100. I made about $200 at the Mount Evans Hill Climb, which was a bike race from Georgetown or Idaho Springs rather, up to Mount Evans, 14,000 feet. And I managed to get second place in the lower category there, and I got $200. And then I made about $300 stipend from USA Triathlon to go compete in Europe at the long distance world championships, ITU long distance world championships in Nice, France. So, I mean, terrible income, sponsors not paying cash, broke as a joke. Credit card was my best friend. Amanda had done well enough to save some money and was able to not get the credit card debt that I was accruing and acquiring at a rapid daily rate. But it was the will to stay here that kept me. And we would sit down I remember every about 6 months, sit down with Amanda and say, let's just give it another half a year. If we're not better in 6 months, we'll leave. And 6 months later, we'd be marginally better, just incrementally better. We'd be just a tick towards leaving the negatives. And but we did just continue to push, and I was improving dramatically. I was realizing that vibe and that scene, we both were. She improved immensely in the upper age group ranks, and I was getting a foothold. So at the end of 2002, and this is kind of a cool triathlon tick the triathlon story box. End of 2002, I've come off this pretty rough season. Did have what I still considered a breakthrough in Hawaii. I got into the top 30. I got 30th. I had a little bit better race than the two previous ones. I was getting there. Obviously, they don't pay 30th. But I came back from that with a renewed confidence that I needed to get back with my mentor, my friend, my coach, Dave Scott, who had coached me when I was in Austin. And so end of 2002, I'm licking my wounds. We're having that talk. Can we stay in Boulder? Can we make this work? And there's a handful of triathletes here. A lot of them had left, but Cameron Whiteoff was here. Tim DeBoom, I mentioned these guys earlier. Tony DeBoom, also Simon Lessing was just moving here. And Simon Lessing, 5-time world champion, one of the best triathletes ever, had moved here from the UK, and his wife Lisa and his daughter Amelie. They didn't have Carla yet. So I bring this up because it was this wonderful intersection of me trying to make it and Simon reinventing his career. And he was such a short course superstar, that he was, and he left with no sponsors. He said, I'm going to leave this world behind and come to Boulder. And he's actually got to come on the show now that I say it out loud. But he was at this point in his career, he was reinventing. I was at a point in my career where I was trying to establish. And I called up Dave Scott. He said, Michael, come swim with us at Flatiron Athletic Club. The heater just broke, so the water's about 72 degrees. But Matt Reed's there. Kiwi, Matt Reed, short course star, Simon Lessing swim with me, and this young woman named Monica Kaplan. She's got to come on the show. Monica Kaplan. So it's just 5 of us. Just come swim with us. A 25-meter pool. And I left the city pool that day. Said, I want to do a workout here, but I'm going to go swim with Dave. And swam with these guys. And I will tell you that every one of them beat the pants off me. Dave, 20 years older than me, creamed me. Monica, a new pro just coming back to Boulder where she grew up, whipped me. Simon Lessing, circles. Matt Reed, can't even see him. So I'm in there, but again, this was it. I'm going to latch on to this greatness, and I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to make this happen. So real key time where I got back in sync with Dave Scott, 2002, end of 2002, and starting 2003, we got serious. And Dave formed a small group of triathletes, and we trained so well. And it was really just the point in my triathlon career where over the next 6 months, from January through June, I got to where I could realistically believe in myself. So it was a top 6 and a payday at Oceanside. And then it was a top 3 at the Provo Half Ironman in Utah in May 31st. And that was 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Ironman Coeur d'Alene, the inaugural. And I just went from that belief to confidence to belief to confidence and let's try something. 2003, Coeur d'Alene, I won the Ironman. It was my first victory. It was the first time I'd ever won a professional race, first time a big race. and made a decent payday. And it was sort of, okay, Amanda, we're in. Now this works. This is our town. We may only be here 5 more years, but let's do 5 years. I'm 29 years old, going on 30, and this is our jam. I can do this. I'm going to see if I can perform in Hawaii, go the distance. And it was really a magical time for me. And along that same time, Amanda that was actually her first year as a professional, unintended. She didn't really ever want to race professionally, but she was good enough in the age group waves. She cleaned house, won about everything in '02, and decided that she was going to give it a whirl. So our Boulder experience kind of, gelled over those couple years, and it was a slow gelling process. I'm still tutoring. I remember having to make the choice in 2003, and I'm working at Fleet Feet still. I'm tutoring, and Simon Lessing he said, we're going for a bike ride at 10 o'clock. We run first. We swim. No, it was swim. It was 2 o'clock. He said, we always run first, 8 a.m. We swim at 11. We'll ride at 2 or 3. And I couldn't make the ride because I had been scheduled to work a shift at Fleet Feet. And that was the point when I realized, okay, I've got to burn the bridge and, burn the boat. Do not burn the bridge. I had to burn the boats. It's the only way, right? You burn the boats. It's the only way for success. And I left my job at Fleet Feet. I stopped tutoring, and I said, I have to have a calendar open to be able to ride with Simon whenever I can, because he's, and did become just an exceptional training partner for me, 2003 and 2004 and 2005, but absolutely exceptional, difficult training partner because he was so good. And I think he liked to kill his training partners, but it really worked for me. My personality and his really meshed. So that was, to me, the point at which I got comfortable with Boulder and with my status as a full-time athlete. Amanda came along there soon thereafter because we had this amazing group of athletes, including, and I'll just throw them out there. Maybe I throw them out there. I'll remember to ask them on the show, but Gordo Byrne was new to town. He joined. Monica Kaplan, now Monica Byrne. She joined the group. Bella Comerford, now Bella Bayless, she joined the group. Desiree Ficker came in a little bit later in 2004. She was here. And me and Simon, the reality is, it was a hard knocks group. We trained hard. There were others, but I think that group, there were a lot others that joined and trained with us, Brad Singh and some really good age group athletes, Kurt Chesney. Either way, it was a time where we were able to get going and really pursue the sport. So I'll say that was, for me, a very fun change from really the struggling times to we're making it, we're getting something done here. The rest of Boulder, let's come to the now, because I do feel like at a fair shake to all my guests, I don't get to only dwell on the past. I'll come up to the now. And so in a little bit of a fast forward button, 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8 really was the highlight of my career, the heyday, the best years of my racing career. That doesn't mean I stopped then, because I wasn't wise enough to. I carried on and raced 9, 10, 11, 12, even 2013. But our Boulder story changed, and all the while we watched it grow. We enjoyed its growth. We did enjoy getting more restaurants. Our first year in Boulder, nobody stayed here for New Year's. They all went to Denver, and there was just nothing. So we watched and we saw cool places come. I'm sure the college kids had some different experience, but for 20-somethings, mid-20s, late 20s, 30-somethings, there was not a lot of vibrancy to the nightlife. So we saw that come and grow, and we dabbled with it. We were kind of squares. We were kind of, early to bed, so we didn't really party, but we didn't party. But nonetheless, we enjoyed that early 2000s. We purchased a house in 2006 and established ourselves. We later saw ourselves wanting to move further out of the center of Boulder. The Boulder that we came to love was a cruiser bike Boulder, and then we ditched it and we moved on to more of a neighborhood Boulder, and we kind of evolved out of that. But now, let's just say, as we got to the very crux, the very amazing, life-changing moment for us was 2013, the beginning of the year. we had just lined up the deal for another round of racing, and sponsors were signed and paychecks were starting to come and schedules were being planned. And Amanda found out on Valentine's Day, the day before Valentine's Day, February of 2013, hey, I'm pregnant. And it was a clear sign, because I just she stopped. I sort of carried on and collected those paychecks, but she immediately said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm moving into real estate." And I said, "Well, I'll just see if I can hack it out here, a couple more races," which I did. But the change and the evolution from 13 to where we now in 2024 was just massive. She distanced herself immediately from the sport and started to see a whole nother side of Boulder that she didn't know before, because she was selling real estate. And so she got to know all of those towns that we just heard about: Lafayette, Longmont, Louisville, Lyons, even Broomfield. And she started showing homes and telling me about them. And I said, well, that's cool. We're still here in Boulder. But it was really an expansion of our awareness. And it was a fun time as we also grew into seeing what Boulder has to offer for families. Massive, massive opportunities and stuff you care about in a different way than when you're an athlete. So we cared about parks, we cared about rec centers, we cared about all the cool schools. You start to realize, I think we toured a school because someone said you had to. Valentine was 6 months old, and they said tour the schools. So we started touring preschools. And the evolution, though, at that point, and getting us to where we are now, as most of you know and follow our story, there is a family business that we own, Lovato Properties, and it wasn't an immediate jump for me to the business. I spent 3 or 4 years after my career ended in triathlon, coaching and really spending a lot of time traveling to Mexico to announce races and call people across the finish line. And I spent the better part of that first 5 years really building a coaching business, growing it, because I had coached part-time for about a decade. And it was awesome. I got to see a lot of really fun folks and do a lot of cool things helping people reach their goals. The coaching years for me and the Team Lovato workouts were really special. We got to learn even more. I got to see even more of Boulder and Boulder County than I had when I was a singular focused athlete of myself on my own. But the coaching years came to an end, and in a proper time, in a proper way. So I could segue into working with Amanda when Zane was born in 2017. And hard to say, that's 7 years ago now that we've been running this business. And so now, as I mentioned, that I'd like to give fair shake to some of the questions and the ways that we talk about Boulder and Boulder Valley and Boulder County with our guests. For me, I'll share this, and I'll kind of, if you haven't listened to episode 15 with Erin Carson, the final part of that and is worth hearing, because she said what she really loves is she loves New Boulder Boulder now versus Boulder in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, because she knows that people really worked hard to get here, that they really sacrificed and pushed hard to be here. And that resonated with me in a big way, because I also see that in our day to day. I see people that want to live here, and here is anywhere within a 30-mile radius. It's inspirational, and we get to be a part of that journey, helping people find homes and sell homes if they're trading up or moving. But what's super cool, and this is the factor that she brought up, is they work hard. They realize, you know what? This is a special place. Has it changed? Yes. Has it changed for the better? That's up to you to decide. But for me, yes, there's more people here. But more people means more opportunities to meet awesome folks and interact with cool people. I just got finished meeting a man from Broomfield called Greg, who has an auto detailing business. And you know what he told me after he detailed Amanda's car, which was a birthday present I bought for her? He said to me, you know what? I'd love it. I told him, I said, I'm going to refer you because you're fantastic. And he said, you know what? I appreciate that, because I think I'm the best. And that right there just captured it. I just had that conversation, but we have people that come to Boulder as the best in their field. And that is awesome, because being around the best is the best. It's just so cool. And to not over dramatize it, we have that in so many areas and fields. So a cool story, but at least for me, interesting. So Aaron said that, and I do think if we come back to Boulder's changed. So when I moved here, it was a little bit quieter, it was a little bit less traffic, and it was a little bit easier to get around in the middle of the day, right? You didn't have to think about cars, jamming up. You didn't have to take the side roads. You could just roll down 28th. But that's what happens when a place is awesome. People find it and they come here. And so I'm opening my arms and welcoming them. And so it would be completely hypocritical to say, oh, Boulder's changed for the worst. It's brought more cool people and it's brought more opportunity for us. So if you want to have your car detailed by the best, he's here. If you want to go and see a physiotherapist, he's here. The best restaurant around, it's here. So to me, Boulder's changed in a good way. Let's talk about more of the specifics. I always make people answer this question, so I'll make myself as well. What's the best? And this is tough, but what's the best, the most fun, or my favorite trail to go out and enjoy? And I was thinking about this the other day. I don't do it often, which is why it holds a special place. And it's actually out in Superior. I did a highlight on this Ormond Roche trailhead. You can park there. But the trail that really lights me up is the Colton Trail that ties in from Superior over to Marshall and links up with Marshall Mesa, Dowdy Draw. If anybody wants this trail, I will send you a Map My Run or a link that I made a few years back. That I didn't create this route. I horked it. I stole it from Boulder Track Club or one of these. But it is the reason I love this trail and why I bring it up. I want you guys to go out there and hike it or run it or ride it. It is just the nicest terrain and footing that you'll find. There's little sections of rock, but it's smooth. So you can do a speed you want to do. You can walk. You're not gonna really get slowed down by rocks, which are fun too. It really is about the views. This trail, and I tell you what, when you're there, you know what I'm talking about. You will absolutely know what I'm talking about. You're just in this space where you can go west from this Ormond Roche trailhead and just head towards the Flatirons, towards the foothills, and you can see everything, just the entire Boulder Valley, the beauty of it all. But it's really just a special spot. So right now, that's the trail I'm calling out as a favorite, maybe not the favorite, but a favorite. So check that out. Colton Trail, wrapping in and tying into Marshall Mesa, Dowdy Draw, the works. Just a gorgeous spot there. So I'll recommend that as a favorite trail. And then as I come over and I say, you know what, this is something that I ask all the guests. I say, hey, give me a little shout out here. Give us a shout out to your favorite coffee shop in town. And I'll say, look, if you're out and about and you've decided to go out for a nice coffee or something, treat yourself, not have the home brew, we'll say. What I would encourage you to do is check out just a bare bones, basic, fun, good, solid joint called Red Rock Coffee. And this is right at 28th and Iris. And I go there a lot. It's one of two places that I'm loving right now. But the reason I love Red Rocks is they have just great customer service. Guy's the owner. Amelia's one of the baristas. They've got a handful over there. And I will say they are all very friendly. They know your story. They know your name. They remember you. They're very sociable as you come in. Great locally owned place there. And it's right across from our office, so I'll pop in there a good bit to grab a coffee. They do just really nice basic stuff. Another little hit, Guy makes all the treats in there. He makes the cookies, he makes the baked goods, he makes the burritos, breakfast bowls. So good stuff there at Red Rock. And that's one of my number one spots. And then another one that is just so good, and I share this place as a favorite with quite a few, is Boxcar over on East Pearl. So Boxcar also has a location down in Table Mesa. So thanks to those wonderful folks for opening that spot down there. But Boxcar is quite good. They have the fancy stuff. If you want to get in there and try something unique, that's the place to go. They have solid espresso drinks and lattes and wonderful baked goods as well. So that's kind of a little bit more on the fancy side, if I'm being honest. So those are a couple places I call out. If I start to say, what about a restaurant? Now, I'm going to give you a little recommendation on a restaurant that's on my brain right now. Because there's so many good spots, and if you're going, we will talk about the restaurant scene in downtown Boulder, in Boulder proper. There are so many good places. I can't even stay there right now. I have to jump out and give you a recommendation in our neighboring town of Niwot. Um, and this is a place called Faro, Farrow, Faro, and it's a really good spot, farm to table in a very special way. I think the radius is about 30 miles, 25 or 30 miles. I'll find out because I'm going there tomorrow night with some good friends. But this place, they get their food from within that 25-mile radius. All of their food comes, or 95% of it, something like that, comes from super hyper local farms. And that's very cool. The menu evolves, but a cozy little spot, high end kind of feel, nice upscale dining, but you're not going to break the bank going there. So that's one of my favorites I'm going to recommend there in Niwot. You can also get there a little bit easier. Parking's a little bit easier for most of us than it is down on Pearl Street. So that'd be my little recommendation, Faro in Niwot. And we talk about stuff. What else do we talk about? I have to ask myself the question that we all get to face, and that is, what's a perfect day here in Boulder County? So my perfect day, I'll just give a quick lowdown on my perfect day in Boulder County. And I'll tell you what, it's going to have a little bit of everything. So if it's my day, it's not just one thing. I'm going to kind of experience the whole day, a typical perfect day for me. And I'm gonna spell it out from the get-go. I get up very early, especially I don't know why, it just happened over the years. I evolved to an early morning person. I wasn't this way as an athlete, but certainly now that I have kids, I love to get out in that 5 o'clock hour and exercise. And it's really just because it sets my day up perfectly. So my perfect day begins, I'll probably get up out of bed before 5 o'clock, roll into the kitchen, maybe do some writing. I like to write down my little journaling, little gratitude journal, and some goals. That gets me started. Mindset's right, feed the dogs, or in a lot of cases, my perfect day will be I'll grab Cricket. So Cricket is my whippet, and I'll take her out my back door. Well, really, it's my front door, but either go out into the back trails or go onto the dirt roads right here by the Boulder Reservoir, and I will do a 6-mile run. So this is how I started out, running with my girl Cricket, and she's a great running partner, very nimble. So I'll take that little whippet for a run, come back, and it's not even 6 o'clock now usually, and I get some breakfast, first breakfast, get cleaned up, wait for the kids to wake up. Usually it's a relay tag. Amanda heads out for her exercise somewhere in that zone, and she's out and getting her outside time, and the kids get up eventually. They do like to sleep. Well, at least one of them does. But they get up, and we will carry on with the day. One of the things I love to do is to watch these kids do their activities. So in this perfect day, I'm going to watch them at Meadows or CAC, but we'll say Meadows since it's summertime. I'll watch them in their swim team and get to see them swim those laps. They work really hard. They're still new to distance or lap swimming as swim team, and so it's fun to see them just improve and enjoy it, embrace those challenges of swimming. So that's what I'll do next, because I really enjoy watching the kids get in there and get after it. Next up, we'll grab everyone, all four of us. We're going to pop over for Walnut Cafe. That's my next stop. Let's say it's 11:30 or 12. We'll pop in there for a late breakfast for me. It'll be my second brekkie, but kind of a lunchtime breakfast. We all love this place. So sit down, maybe have some waffles or pancakes. But our good friend Dana and Xantha, this amazing power couple here in Boulder, they own that restaurant, and we are still huge fans of them. So leaving that, we're gonna zip off, and because it's my perfect day, I'm gonna get a little work in as well. 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we'll say I'll go out and grab a couple of my amazing clients, show them some properties, try and get a home under contract, because there's something there that I really find powerful. I really like the satisfaction, the gratitude that I get, gratification that I get from helping people. And that's something that I can't leave off my list. So a couple hours out there helping people. And then following on to that, the next step will be going out, maybe getting the crew out onto the reservoir and jump onto the paddle boards. And we live real close, so we're just go out there for a couple hours, 4 or 5 o'clock, something like that, paddle around, jump in, cool off. And then now it's evening, 6, 7 o'clock. Going to grab the whole family again, all 4 of us. We're going to zip over to North Boulder, and we're going to dive right into dinner at Proto's. And over there at Proto's, we can really just enjoy sitting out on the patio, having beautiful pizza, some drinks, and being treated by our favorite staff. And next up after that, we're done. We're going to cruise on back down to maybe get a little dessert at Sweet Cow and roll on home. But that's my perfect day here in Boulder. Couldn't script it any better. So I'm going to try and target one of those in the next 5 days, just like that. But I tell you what, this has been really fun for me, talking to me, sharing my story with you all. And I appreciate you guys being here for yet another edition of our podcast here, where we talk about the awesomeness of Boulder County. And so with that, I will say goodbye and thank you very much for tuning in. And before our next episode, I encourage you to get out there and do something that you love.